All right, I'm here with Marty Kausas, the founder and CEO at Pylon. Pylon is they call themselves the Zendesk killer. It's a B2B support platform. Customers like Deal, for example. They're over 7 figures in revenue, 24 people, 5.5x last year. And Marty is super active on LinkedIn. I think you were mentioned to me a couple times by other founders who want to do this type of stuff and who look at you for being a great example of, a good way to do this. So that's why I reached out and wanted to have you here on the show. So thank you for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And just for everyone listening, Finn actually has more followers than me, so I hope to learn from him
But I
as
think you're
well
growing
during this
faster, and
call.
that matters more. Like that matters more in startup world, and it matters more with audience. Momentum is more important than baseline.
Yeah,
Um,
well, how about this? Wait, let's compare really quick. Do you how many impressions have you? What's the max number of impressions you've gotten on a post?
on one post, 200K.
Okay, I smoke you on that one, and
What's
I'll take the credit for this one. My best post did 1.2 million,
what was it
and
about?
it was about how we used to live in our office, and
Oh, I
it
know this one.
totally took
Yep, yep,
off.
yep.
Everyone saw that post, like everyone and their mother. Every time I showed them, like it's like, oh, yep, saw that.
Yeah, I feel like there's recently been this kind of like back and forth of like YC backed companies, like, you're doomed if you raise from YC, and YC is just, taking all your money and not doing anything for you. And then other YC founders coming out to support them. So, you happy that you did YC?
I mean, look, they gave us $500,000 when we had come up with our idea 2 weeks ago. So, like, I mean, you can like make the judgment on whether that was like, we were ready to take investment at that time or not. To be
Sure.
fair, within those 2 weeks, we like got basically our first paying customer, or at least like commitment to pay. And so it wasn't like we had nothing, but we had pretty close to nothing. So I think that, their bet is they're making a really, really early stage bet. Like most people I know who get in have their idea like a month before the batch. And so like, I mean, I think it's pretty reasonable for them to ask for a big chunk, especially with the type of persona that they actually invest into, which is very often like first time founders. So you're basically making bets on people who have never started anything, who just came up with their idea and giving them $500,000. So it's
That's
a,
pretty decent. Fair enough.
yeah.
So you 5.5x the company last year. What about your LinkedIn followers? You're now at 30K. What were you at the beginning, 2024?
Oh God, that's a great question. Damn, I was probably so I started LinkedIn posting in November. Well, I like had my first like good post in November 2023, and that
Uh-huh.
got like 300K impressions.
That's your first
That
good post.
My first good post was actually about how we went from idea to paid MVP in 14 days. And that post, so like up until that point, we had been posting quite a bit, or not, sorry, not quite a bit. I just like, there was one person in our YC batch who he was actually selling into the construction industry, like vertical SaaS for
Yeah,
construction. And he was like, oh yeah, like I get like a lot of leads. And at the time, he had probably 5K followers or something. And we're like, wow, he has like a ton of followers. This is crazy. And we,
right.
we just had like no concept of what was big on LinkedIn or like what you could do there. And I feel like, to be honest, a lot of people didn't. I think it's really like grown in the past year or two. But so we had inspiration from him, and like a couple other people told us like, hey, maybe posting on LinkedIn will be helpful. And so I started posting just like maybe like once every week,
Yeah.
and my posts were absolute garbage, so bad. Like if you look back, the posts were just terrible. Like less than 5 likes on
That's
some
how
of these.
everyone
Like
starts. Nice. Yes.
right, right. And so, and when I tell people like, oh, what should you expect when you start posting? Like you should expect that. Like you should expect that your
Hmm.
post will do very poorly, and like that's okay, and like you will get better over time.
How long
So
do you think it took
we
until it clicked?
It took months. So I probably was posting like garbage content for like 3 months, like maybe like once or twice a week until we had that first post that really went viral. And, I posted it. LinkedIn does a terrible job, as I'm sure you know, on like notifying you when a post is doing well. Like you don't really like get an alert or anything. My co-founder, he was just like, hey, your post has like a couple hundred likes. And I was like, whoa, that's cool. And then, over the weekend, it gets even more and more. And then I come back on Monday and it's like 1,000 likes. And I'm like, oh shit, that's crazy.
That
And
dopamine
so
feels good, right?
it did feel good, yeah. And that luckily that first post that went viral was not controversial. It was just very much because I think you'll also, and we can talk about this as well, your first controversial post where like people like get really angry in the
What's your
comments
first
and it turns
controversial post that went viral?
so I learned from this first post on the 0 to 14 days MVP post, where we got 300 impressions that, the formula that was working really well at the time was, okay, short story about the company and the founders and then
Hmm.
photo of the founders. And
Hmm.
so, I was just like, okay, how do I replicate that again? So the next post I did was we raised $3.2 million in 7 days. That was like the
Hmm.
next post. And
Hmm.
so, we make that post, most people love it and they're like, oh wow, that's cool and like, rightfully impressive. Then a lot of people see this photo of me and my two co-founders and they're like, only men could do this. Like, oh, like you start getting like that crowd of people who are just like, coming out of nowhere. And so, you get stuff like that.
You
The
were
next
playing
post,
on that a little bit, I think, right? Like I think I saw like was it a video of you guys that you were kind of like in the back of a car and you were like building
yes,
your pitch deck as you were driving to like Andreessen Horowitz or something like that. And it was like a little, like for me it felt like you were like playing it a little bit. You were like, look, this is so easy. We just did this real quick in the car. And maybe that's even true, but you also knew what you were doing.
so the funny thing is like that video, so that was when we were going to go raise our Series A. And I think what most people, so it was not intended to be controversial,
Mm.
actually. It's literally us just like living the startup life, right? We're,
Hmm.
we're literally just like, hey, we're building a company. Like, we made our deck yesterday. And I think the point that most people will miss about that video, and I tried to like make it clear in the post, is that you've done all the work leading up to making the deck. Making the deck or whatever is like, you could make it in 15 minutes or not 15, probably like an hour, right? And like, you've already done the strategic thinking. You already hopefully have the customers, you have the references, you like have the story to tell, like all of that work comes beforehand. And then if you do the actual company building properly, then actually going in and explaining it and talking about the work you've already done is very easy,
Sure.
right? And so I think for us, like going, and by the way, we don't use any like designers on our slide decks. Like it's plain white Google Slides that we're putting in. So it's
Yeah.
like the simplest thing of all time. Like just a couple bullets on each slide and mostly us just like storytelling on here's, our vision, here's our revenue, all this fun stuff. And so, yeah, that post actually was not meant to be controversial. That was just supposed to be like, here's what it actually looks like. It really is like an episode of Silicon Valley, if you ever watched that show.
Hmm.
And just, that's how it is. So,
So you 5.5x the company last year. You grew quite a lot on LinkedIn too. What's your best guesstimate on what the contribution of that LinkedIn and the impressions and all that was to the 5.5x growth?
so we have three major sources of pipeline, and one of them is LinkedIn. And
Hmm.
as you know, it's really hard to do real attribution. I would guess that probably like a third of our pipeline is coming from LinkedIn.
Okay, interesting. And so that's one part. That's just inbound or leads or pipeline. Do you
Yep.
see anything else in terms of investors, partners, talent applications that's this is driving?
For every single piece. Yeah. So the cool thing is it's good on every dimension. So it's
Mm,
good for prospects, so who don't know about our product. It's good for customers who then will find new features that we release. It's good for like recruiting people. So, people in the company will like our posts and then their networks will see it. And what we've learned is the best people that you can hire are usually already in network. And so they're like friends of friends,
yeah.
or like ex-coworkers of our current employees. So it works really well for that. Investors, I mean, we basically got preempted for the A, and one of the investors, they were both on our monthly investor update list, and then also they were seeing our posts all the time. And
Hmm.
so it definitely helped. It helps across every level. And I even actually, before we started raising the A, I started like just an automated LinkedIn connection sequence to go add a lot of the good partners on LinkedIn, because I was like, hey, I just want them to like know who we are,
Sure.
regardless of whether
Smart.
we end up talking to them. And also to block out the market like long term, if someone else is trying to raise and like trying to do what we're trying to do, they're going to be like, how are you different than Pylon? And they're not going to have a good answer. And so like we basically, in terms of like establishing dominance and signaling within the market, LinkedIn has helped us do that across every single dimension.
So your ICP is support and customer success leaders?
Yes, but the interesting thing, so yeah, we sell to early stage B2B tech companies, so like usually up until 500 employees. And the interesting thing is, so we do a lot of this like build in public content that really appeals to founders and startup people. And as you grow, we're like, okay, as we're going up market, we need to start targeting VPs of customer support and success more in what we post. But actually, we found a lot of founders will just now recommend Pylon to their team. And so even we like still are hitting the founder persona, but at like bigger companies.
Interesting.
And those people then tell their team, hey, you should go look at Pylon, which is honestly even better than like hitting the people themselves. Because then if your founder tells you, go look at Pylon, you're going to go look at Pylon.
Yeah, but that was one of my questions, because obviously and I give this advice a lot, which is that if you sell to a VP of customer support, you want to be sharing content that's relevant to a VP of customer support, and that's usually thought leadership around, how to build this function and how to hire the right people and what's worked for them. Your content is, I would say, as you say, broadly categorized as building in public. Um, but it has not, so you weren't in this when you started out, it kind of happened where you didn't really think about it too much of who that ICP is, and you just started posting those founder stories, and then that naturally attracted founders, and now you just realize even as you go in up market, it's fine to just stick with it.
It's fine for now. I think we're going to have to switch it up, but at least for the moment, it's really good. And then the other thing I'd say generally is like you just want to mix up your content to make sure that some posts are more for pulling in more followers, other posts are for actually kind of milking your existing base. And so, it's a combination. And so now I do this mix of, hey, like build in public, here's what we're thinking at the company posts. Those do really well because they're just really raw and like specific. We do industry posts. I actually really like writing these. It's like, oh, here's the story of how Zendesk got acquired, for example. And
Hmm.
it's like about, a product that a lot of our prospects use. And, I have a post about Zendesk that got 600,000 impressions, which is crazy.
Mm.
And that was just me it was essentially telling someone else's build story, right? So
Right.
it's like, here's what happened with Zendesk and how they got acquired.
Yeah.
And so, but within the same industry. And so that did very well and kind of like lends the brand to me to use in the post. I've done the same thing with like a post or content that Sequoia has made and like talking about a blog post about AI. And specifically, I then focused on AI and customer support. And so, yeah, I do a mix of like the build in public, the industry stuff, and then of course a lot of like product updates that
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
shipping
Yeah.
as well.
And then testimonials. I see that you guys get tagged a lot on posts, and then you can obviously amplify that, which is super powerful.
Yeah, I think it's so funny. I actually am inspired by Elon for this, which it's like dangerous to say that, but to be specific, like
I
you
just
know
posted a
how
couple days ago that Elon Musk might have surpassed Donald Trump as the most controversial man alive.
he honestly might be, but one thing that I mean, both of them, I guess, are masters of social media. So I think it's like good to learn from them and what they do. One thing he does on X that I think is really effective is anytime he sees like a political thing he doesn't like, he'll just repost it and say terrible or like something like that. He like doesn't even have to say a lot, but he'll just say stupid things like that. And I swear to God, like you can only read the same thing like so many times until it starts being the truth. And so, or at least like the truth within what you believe. And so I've just realized like I need to amplify anything that's positive Pylon and also amplify anything that's negative Zendesk. So like I'm starting to do stuff like that.
Yeah, how did this whole Zendesk killer POV positioning come about? Was that there from the start or?
No, so we actually didn't even start as a customer support platform. We started first with this like very specific problem of, hey, a lot of B2B companies are now supporting their customers over shared Slack channels. And so that was the initial insight. And our initial product actually just integrated into Zendesk. It was like, hey, you have Slack channels, you can add a ticket emoji to a message that sends it to Zendesk, and then vice versa, messages will come back. And so that was what we built to start. And then as we learned from our customers who were Zendesk users, they kept like asking us, hey, can you build this? Can you build this? We started realizing there were a ton of
You got the
gaps in
Zendesk
Zendesk.
roadmap download.
Well,
The
not the, I guess the lack of roadmap
yeah,
download because it was like,
the ones that the users would have liked to have.
exactly. So they start giving us all this feedback and we're like, hey guys, look, this is not like Zendesk needs to fix these. This is like not something we can do as
Mm.
just like this integration. And and yeah, we've resisted it for so long. Our YC partners said we should go after Zendesk. Like a lot of our customers were telling us we should go after Zendesk, and we're like, no, like it's people like Zendesk. It's like a tool that like you hire VP of support, they'll immediately go there. There's no way to take them down. And
Mm.
so only a year after being deployed with, customers who were using this like first integration piece of ours, did we make a decision that, hey, there's enough here that Zendesk is never going to do that we could build a unique product off of. And it
Hmm.
turns out that was a combination of Slack support, like basically B2B having its omni-channel moment. It's like about a lot of like B2B specific integrations and how they should work. It's the reporting and analytics. It's the views. It's for example, like the fact that B2B teams look very different and therefore have different workflows they build. So in B2C, you have just customer support that's customer facing. In B2B, you have customer support, customer success,
Sure.
solutions engineering, professional services, like all these different teams that work together to support the customer. And like you end up stitching together a bunch of products that each of them owns. When in reality, we think that should be one unified platform, but it's only relevant for the B2B companies, which is why no one's built this before. So we're trying
I
to
don't
build that like all in one.
I don't know if you've internalized this or reflected on it, but do you have any tips on how to define a POV? Because I mean, I talked to a ton of founders, and there's a ton of founders who are building a CRM or who are building an outbound platform or a marketing automation platform, and it's kind of like HubSpot or kind of like Salesforce or kind of like this, but there's like some differences, but they can't really tell you the essence of it. It's like, yeah, we have this feature and they don't have that feature.
Yeah. So it's really funny. I actually think that, and we reflect on this a lot because we have a lot of people who don't come to us for features, but they just come to us because they like hate the incumbent. They're just like, I hate Zendesk. And so we're like, is that big? Like, is that a big enough market? Like, or we look at like companies like Linear who are just, okay, we're like the nice version of Jira, right? We've just done Jira and we've just done it way better. Um, I personally get super concerned if that's the value prop because I don't think you're going to, I don't know, it just doesn't seem very strong. Like I think
Hmm.
you actually do ideally want some sort of big feature moat that others don't have. And so I'd much rather be in the position of, let's say, a Rippling where they're consolidating a bunch of adjacent products into one, and
Hmm.
that's their value prop versus, Linear, which great company, we love them, we use them, but it seems like it would be harder long term to build a big business out of that value prop instead. So we are very much taking the approach, like our initial wedge here is this like omni-channel thing, so Slack, team support, etc. But long term, it's actually going to be this like consolidation of B2B post sales tools that people buy. So it'll look a lot more like Rippling.
But even that, I mean, like I think I agree with you that you need a large feature mode, but you still need a condensed POV,
Oh, just you mean
but
just
like a
like how did
story
when you say
about what
PO?
you're building here. And so, like
I see.
Zendesk Killer is one way, and maybe you don't, but building the complete platform for B2B post sale, even that's a POV, right? But I'm saying there's a lot of companies who just like, yeah, this is a marketing automation tool, and you know
Yeah. So it's so funny. The Zendesk killer thing, it's done very well, and I'm actually shocked by how much people like it. Because when we initially put that out, or in our like tagline on LinkedIn is building the next Zendesk. And
Hmm.
what was going through my head when I wrote that was, hey, we're this integration product right now, and people keep booking demos just for the integration, and we don't want to be the integration anymore. We're not selling it anymore. Like hard pivot to or expansion to full support platform, and people needed to understand what we were. And so I had to compare ourselves to what we wanted to become. And
Yeah.
so that was actually why I started saying, oh, we're building the next Zendesk. And then like building the Zendesk killer was just like a spicier version to include that in LinkedIn. But it sticks in people's minds, and it's condensed enough so that when you make your content, people can see it on the feed and like understand what that means.
Yeah.
And it'll also like cast a wide enough net where, I mean, the most common support platform that we go up against is Zendesk. And so that's going to hit like the majority of people and pique their interest at least a little bit so that they go try to learn more.
Do you notice that with that messaging, you don't siphon off any people from competitors of Zendesk? Like, I don't know, Freshdesk. I don't know the space super well, but do they just not end up using you guys, or does it not matter to people? They just get the messaging, even if.
So the target audience we go after primarily uses Zendesk, Intercom, and then Salesforce Service Cloud. So, but Zendesk is like by far the most common one we run into. Possibly, I mean, now as I think about it, maybe it is our messaging and we're just like, saying the wrong thing. But really, like Intercom isn't really a long-term competitor. They are like very much more optimized for consumer and then also going like enterprise customer support AI. And then Salesforce Service Cloud is a little more upmarket than what we currently sell to usually. So we do migrate people over, but it's like not as common. So Zendesk really does feel like that sweet spot of people we should be targeting.
Yeah, I think partly is you guys did what I think a lot of founders want to do, but they're maybe scared to do. Because I think I talk to people and they're like, yeah, like Salesforce is just a shitty product. But they don't want to
Right.
say that, because that's
Right.
kind of negative and you don't want
Well,
to put down
here's
the.
here's the problem is like you actually need specific. So I actually used to think Salesforce is a shitty product, and
Mhm.
there are a lot of pieces that are shitty, but the core CRM or like the thing that like it needs to do very well, which is just be like a sales database, is actually pretty good.
Mm.
Like I actually don't like, and this is like the difference between like the linear value prop and like the rippling value prop is like linear. If you think from like the linear mindset where it's like, oh, like optimized for super good UX and like that's our differentiator and like that's how we're better. Like people don't care that much.
Sure.
When you like go up market for Salesforce, like that's like not the important. First off, I think it's like good enough, and like you can buy tools on top that like make the UX nicer. So yeah, I actually that's like one of my learnings as a founder and like pieces of growth, I guess, as like someone who comes from an engineering background and really does appreciate great UX and products. Um, I now realize that like building a Salesforce with a nice UX is not good enough. Like that will not convince people that I don't think that's a big business. Like maybe you can capture some like segment of the SMB market, but like most people just don't care. And there are more important things like, hey, does it integrate into all the sales tools I want? Like, does it do like data enrichment properly? Does it have really good reporting? Like those are the things that actually matter versus kind of like the nice UX experience.
How much time do you currently spend on like your founder-led marketing, content, LinkedIn, engaging, both writing, publishing, commenting, like all of it combined? What's your best guess?
Yeah, I spend probably like minimum 4 hours on Sunday, just like writing content. And that's like, I'll probably get through like half the week. And keep in mind, I'm scheduling content for both myself and my co-founders, and in some cases, the company page. So I'm like pre-scheduling a bunch of posts, and then also pre-scheduling all the comments that will be on them. So yeah,
What do you
doing
use?
all of that together.
Taplio or what do you
Um,
use?
we use Assembly, if you know them.
Somehow I have not heard of them.
Okay.
ASS?
Yeah, assembly as you would expect it to be spelled. I think it's meetassembly.com now, but I really like their product. It's good.
Interesting. And so do you feel like that's too much or too little time?
I think that content is one of the few marketing channels that's working for us. And so like one thing I actually regret, and if other founders are listening to this, you get the advice often of like, oh, double down on what's working. And for some reason, for most people, like they don't think of LinkedIn as something they should double down on. It's like, oh, that's just social media. Like that's not like a real channel. Like we need cold email marketing to work. But I mean, if it works, it works. Just like do it more. So I regret, for example, not being like, okay, it's working on my profile. I should be posting every day now. Okay, it's working on my profile every day. Now I should be posting from my co-founders' accounts. Like, okay, like now it's working there. Like we should be doing it from our page and like just doing more and more content and higher quality. So I think I regret personally not just realizing that earlier and taking it more seriously.
So do you feel like it's fair to say 10 hours a week all in all with like the 4 hours on?
Honestly, yeah, probably. Yeah. 10 hours is probably accurate.
And so are you planning in 2025 to like keep it at 10 hours but just get more focused? Do you plan on literally doubling it to 20 hours a week?
I do want to do, so the thing is, I think LinkedIn is getting very crowded this year. I think
Yeah.
everyone and their mother knows that LinkedIn is an important place to be. So if you're B2B or you're a startup, like people have seen it now. And
Yeah.
by the way, I personally take some of the blame for this because
Yeah.
I literally think I've helped spur a lot of, especially the startup like YC community to do this type of thing, because the reason being, we were targeting early stage B2B founders. So I literally went and had an automation to go and connect with every YC founder. And so imagine like I connected with every YC founder and then am posting every day and they're seeing these posts do well. And so that for sure is going to influence like a good percentage of them to be like, okay, maybe we should do this as well as part of our like go to market or marketing strategy. So I know for a fact that I have poisoned the well in some sense and like made it worse because I literally just like viral, like I just spread the virus to the people who would be most likely to post. So
Yes. And then
yeah,
on top of all that, you're going on a podcast that's called the Founder That Marketing Show, whose sole agenda is to evangelize this whole thing. Uh,
there
yeah,
we
it's like
go.
it's like you're a resident in Barcelona, posting on Instagram how amazing it is to live in Barcelona, and then complaining that there's so many tourists in Barcelona.
Right, right. Yeah. And so basically, and that's part of the game. Like for us, we have to hit that audience and, that's the channel that's working for us. The like evolution of this is going to have to be just post like more, like just higher quality content and harder content to make. And so, for example, I really want to start a vlog, which sounds like crazy, but I think I just like know that like build in public stuff that's working right now, post form. I just like have this sense that I would personally really like it. And that especially the things like the video of us in the back of the car, like if we just do more stuff like that, it's probably going to do well.
Yeah.
So,
The playbook that I've seen work well is to have a weekly newsletter. The newsletter is like a super like in-depth breakdown of something, right? Let's say like your complete LinkedIn strategy.
mm,
Um, and then on LinkedIn, you've seen these giveaway posts where people are like
mm,
comment below. And so you do a LinkedIn post that's like, I created, a thing documenting my whole process and my team told me to not share this, but I'm doing it
mm,
anyway. Comment, playbook down below and I'll send it to you. And then you literally just send the link to the newsletter.
I see.
And that's the distribution
That's
strategy
really
for the
funny.
newsletter.
That's so funny. So, okay, I have like mixed feelings about this because don't like I'm not I feel like I'm not trying to like optimize a funnel here. I feel like I'm just trying to produce really good content that's interesting and therefore like some segment of people will then come to us as a result of that. Um I know that must work, but I'm nervous to do it because I just like it feels very markety to me. And I like don't like that feeling
Yeah.
where it's like kind of like it looks like other people's content when I really want it to just be like what would I just find really interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm on the fence. I know it probably works really well, and I know founders who have literally made that exact post that you've described, but because of that, I feel like hesitant to try it. Or yeah, hesitant. I just don't want like the brand that we've been building up to feel like, okay, now like not as authentic as it used to be.
No, I mean, I don't know. It's like, I think there's limiting beliefs, right? And I've never made a post like that too, like before the same reason, because I'm like, I'm just not sure I want to do this. But I think part of it is also, I don't know. I mean, I talk to a ton of technical founders, like people who are engineers, and they're like, I don't want to do LinkedIn and social media because, like, that's stupid and self promotion, right? And then you kind of get to this conversation of, well, like, well, if you have a great product, you probably want people to know about it, right? And then it's like, how far do you take that to the extreme where you say, well, I spent 5 hours writing this newsletter and I put so much effort into it. Now let me just try to max out the amounts of people who can look and view this newsletter. And it just happens with the algorithm that currently the way to do it is to bait people into commenting, to send them the link. It's like, well, I guess that's the kind of
Right.
that's how you
Well, I'm
maximize
curious
it.
though, like, do you end up just getting the same people on the newsletter who would see you on LinkedIn?
Well, the algorithm looks at, how many people are commenting and then amplifying it, right? And I'm sure they've dialed
Right.
that back now that they see this, because you can game it. And especially they can now just say, well, if 100 comments all say the same word, then don't amplify it to the same extent. But right now it still seems to work. And you do, I mean, I've seen some behind the scenes, and it's like, yeah, you get 700 people or 1,500 people to all comment with the playbook, and then the post itself gets like 300,000 views. And it's like, if you would have just posted that super in-depth playbook, probably not gonna get that.
Right. No, makes sense. I'm also curious, like, what are the types of content that you like to see, just personally? Like, what's in your feed that you like actually like seeing in your feed?
I think it's kind of what you said, which is kind of hard for people to create. So it's either I have a problem and someone like just solved it for me,
Mm,
but like thought through, not like a little hack and here's like one little neat thing how you can like do this little tiny thing. It's like, here's a step-by-step walkthrough of like how you like get rid of this problem.
mm.
I think that's super powerful. um
Yeah, I definitely like
and then
those
it's just,
too.
yeah, stories, I guess, like there's like entertainment value, right? And like that post of like you guys sitting in the back of the car and doing that, like I didn't learn anything from that, but it's like you can't really fake that in a sense, right? That's like, so it's just interesting.
Yeah, I really like the stories as well. I think for me it's probably a combination. I really like the stories and I really like where I do learn something or the last piece and like props to the people who do this. I think Max from Warmly does this really well. He
Totally.
like went
Had him on the
clear,
pot, yeah.
right? And so I think that's super cool. I like really respect the fact that he's sharing exact numbers and I'm like, okay, like this is really cool to see what they're thinking about. So I think they do a really really good job at that and being very detailed and specific. And so yeah, for me that is probably my favorite type of content. And then I also just really like the storytelling posts. Although now that I see so many YC founders, especially just like posting photos of themselves and like telling a story, I'm like, oh God, is this how we look every time I make one of these posts as well? And so now I
Yeah,
want to like color it a little more and as I said before, like introduce more video, make it like more, like make the story even like deeper and like more, uh, I don't know, just like multi-dimensional because I think a video does something that an image cannot.
sure.
I do want to go in that direction long term.
Yeah, and I mean it gives me hope in the sense, because it's kind of what you said about the pitch deck. Like the work is in the building the company, and then the pitch deck is just kind of putting it on paper. And so I think similarly with LinkedIn content, yeah, kind of people can understand the playbook of like, selfie of you in a super spare room with just a mattress on the floor or whatever, and saying like, hey, I'm only paying myself very little. But then it's like, did you 5.5x your company in the last year, and do you have the receipts to show for it? Because
Right.
that the proof is in the pudding, right? And then that becomes interesting.
Yep.
So anyway,
Yep. Yeah. Yeah,
how
for sure.
how do you think about, you guys are all engineers from the looks of it, you, Advit,
Yep.
and Robert.
That's right.
As you're now trying to go up market, where the persona of the kind of VP of customer support becomes more relevant, How do you think about that? Both in terms of like understanding them and also from the content perspective. You're not that person.
Yeah. Upmarket. So actually two things. One, just in building the company, we have had to become the persona, right? So we have probably around like 120 support tickets every day now. And we
Mm,
have only one. And we were probably at around 80 when we hired our support engineer. And so we've had to like learn how to do customer support. And we've also had to learn, obviously not at like the same scale as an enterprise company, but then also on the customer success side and account management side, like that's work that we've had to figure out how to do ourselves. And so we really are like dog fooding our own product and like just oiling Pylon as much as we can. So there is some empathy, but and then also the other thing is like when you think about building the product all the time and like you're talking to people and like getting feedback from customers, you actually like build an understanding of things that actually a lot of support and success teams like wouldn't have insight to. Like they'll have insight into their specific problem, but we have insight into how everyone tries to solve that problem
sure.
and
Yeah.
like just the different ways. So I would say there is a lot, there's, empathy on like solving the problem ourselves. And then there's also just this like higher level view that we get that no one else gets. But that said, we were talking to like a 1,000 plus person company. We don't sell to anyone of that size right now. And their priorities are just totally different. And like, it is
Sure.
harder for us to understand, okay, like, okay, why do you want these reporting metrics? Like, why, like, do you
Mm,
need the data to look this certain way? And like, the things they think about just are completely different. And like, coming back to like the linear UX versus like rippling, like they want the rippling. They don't care about the like super nice UX product. They care about, hey, does it solve the actual problems that we have? And like, does it have like a better integration? Does it have like the right API endpoints so that we can like connect our internal systems the way we want them to? And so, yeah, I mean, it's a constant learning process. The way it's going to change our content strategy, upmarket people definitely, it's hard. You can't trial a product as easily, right? So you can
hmm
like set up a demo instance, but it's very hard to actually go through and be like, okay, let's like get everyone on it and like see how it goes for a week. And so for them, it's going to be a lot more case study and social proof that is going to help them make decisions. So like that's a really big difference between down market and up market. So the content's going to have to be a lot more about other people saying things
Yep.
about good things about Pylon or case studies, etc.
Well, you're also learning through talking to these people, right? If you talk to a ton
Right.
of VPs of customer success of these enterprises. To wrap things up, your last question, and I know we touched on a bunch of these things throughout and like different formats, but to condense it down, if a SaaS founder, B2B founder came to you and they're like, Marty, I've been following your content. Awesome. I enjoy following you. I can see what it does for your company. I want to do it too. What advice would you give them?
Listen, well, I guess they just listened to this episode, but they basically just start. That's the real thing that you should do. Like just start, make a goal of posting twice a week, and
hmm
just like make sure you do that for the next like 3 months. And what you'll find is that as you post more, you'll start to observe other people's posts more and like notice how they write, what they do, what you like about it, and then you'll start to copy and like take the bits and pieces from different posts that you really like. And so I think, yeah, the recommendation is just start. And that's what we did and just keep at it. Take it seriously. That's like one thing
Mm.
most people don't do. And like, they don't realize LinkedIn is like something they should spend their work hours on, but it's really good if you can. And if your audience is on LinkedIn already. So just start.
And it sounds like you figured out to fit it into your busy schedule by writing your 2 or 3 weekly posts on a Sunday.
So I'm writing, by the way, 5 times per week from my personal profile, and then from my profile, and both my co-founders' profiles, so 15 minimum per week, and then also, yeah, exactly, and then also the 5 posts from Ideal. I do it less now from the company page, so minimum around like 15 posts per week.
Holy cow. So,
Yeah,
okay, we have 2 minutes left. So, how long does it take you? You write 15 in 4 hours?
Oh, no, no, no. I do 15. That probably gets me through like the first like 3 days of the week. And then, or like 3 days of the week. Let's say it's half. So probably like 8 to 10 in total for the week.
Okay. And then how do you structure the ideas? Like, how do you think about, okay, I need to do 15. What's your breakdown?
I literally just like sit there and think about it. And I'm like, okay, like, have I done this type of post this week? Like, maybe I should do like an industry post. I'll also look at so feature updates and product updates that we've shipped for the past week. And so that also fills out like a lot of the content calendar. It's like, did we hire anyone? That's a post. Are
Yep.
we hiring anyone new? That's a post.
Yep.
So like all of that stuff will kind of like meld together and, it'll be very relevant to just like whatever, yeah, has come up.
Nice. And then you keep the most interesting ones to your profile. And
Yep. Yep.
Advid and Robert get the scraps.
Yeah. I mean, technically, yes, that is how it is right now.
I mean, they can't complain. All right, Marty, this was awesome. Thank you so much for coming. Learned a lot. If people want to follow you, check you out, or check out Pylon, the links are going to be in the show notes and description. So yeah, thank you for coming on.